Hey everybody, welcome to my workshop. I get a lot of questions on how do you come up with all of these creative looks. Well, I want to walk you through my creative process that I go through on almost literally every single competition reality show I work on. Depending on the show, if it's about singing or dancing, really depends on how that creative process is going to begin. So first and foremost, anytime I'm working on a show, we have contestants, and I need to know what those contestants look like. So we put together a little checklist, and I have my checklist, and the first thing that I ask for are headshots from the production. The reason why this is so important, especially if it's a live TV show, I get those headshots laminated and hole punched because we're working backstage in a pipe and drape area, which means it's just drapes that are constructed. It's our own little pop-up dressing room and styling space where we get all hair and makeup done. And what I do is I safety pin that headshot above the hair station where that contestant needs to go. Imagine if you're in between a dance number and you come back and you're like, oh, holy cow, where do I go? Look for your photo. It's quick and easy, and time is money. Number one, so we get the headshots ready, and then I build the client profile. You know, we do this in a salon because we have our client profile, we have their contact information, we have their styling, we have their texture, all of those things that we need to know about their hair. For a TV show, I need to know, first and foremost, the color of the hair, the texture of the hair, and the length of the hair. The reason why those three are so important is because I have to build my stock. I want to make sure that I have everything that's needed for that one contestant on hand. So that's checklist number one. And you kind of start to go through, and I'll just give you a little inside tip. When I see a contestant, I'm automatically thinking, oh, let's look at their face shape. Their face shape, this style is gonna look great. And we know we have 7 face shapes ranging from an oval face shape to a triangle face shape or a diamond shape. And you need to know that face shape so you can build a proper silhouette depending on what that creative process is. So once we get done with that headshot and we've collected that information, we have that contestant profile that I'm gonna keep on hand, and I'm actually gonna start to create a show binder. And I know this is super old school because a lot of people do it digitally. I love to have a tangible binder because when I'm on the fly, if I have to make an adjustment to a style or a specific note, maybe they have an issue with the left side of their head when we're going through the creative stuff, I love to have a binder that I can write on quickly and I can keep some really effective notes. Now, one of the other, and I love it because I'm using my checklist right here because it's key. There's so many things that go into really creating and building and developing a person's look based on a theme, based on, you know, the classification of dance, if it's going to be ballroom, if it's going to be jazz, if it's going to be hip hop, if it's going to be Broadway or Bollywood. All of those things are really incredibly important for a couple of reasons. If I know I'm going to be doing a Bollywood number, it's going to be about attachment and structure. They're going to be wearing a bindi. We need to make sure that that will never come off, so we're going to whip stitch that. So automatically, based on the style of dance, there's certain things that I always have to make sure that are really crucially done. And those are just kind of innate things that you know based on the dance. If it's going to be jive, we know that there's going to be a lot of jumping and a lot of bouncing. So we need to make sure that those curls are going to bounce with them or without them. I'm just saying, you got to make sure that it's put together. So the way it all starts is we have a weekly creative meeting, and usually it's all of the department heads for the creative branches. So we have makeup, hair, wardrobe. We also have the creative department. We have sets and we have lighting. We all work together to create that show. And these creative components that come down from the choreographer are what they're envisioning for their number. And they're very specific about it, and we like to do everything we can for them and we just tell them, put down every single thing you want, and based on budget and time, we can determine what we can and what we cannot do. So we sit in this creative meeting and we go through each one of the numbers. Now remember, each contestant might have 2 or 3 numbers in a show, so we always have to take that into consideration in terms of doing a switchover, a quick change, and making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row so we are ready to change them out quickly and efficiently. So once we get that concept, we understand the briefs that are done, it's now my opportunity to go back to my contestant profile sheet to talk about texture of hair, depending if we want color, hair, if we want to add different things. All of those pieces are very important in terms of that creative process. And then I come in my workshop and I'll grab, a doll head from up above or all over and start to kind of work out that style roadmap and everything else on the head, and start to think of a concept and products that we need to really execute that style. So in my workshop, it's really important because I have this broken down into creative sections. So above my work table, because I love to have a space where I can actually spread out, and I have a bulletin board, so if I have inspiration pieces or concepts or tear sheets, I like to pull those as well. Now, here are just some binders that I constantly keep. This is an avant-garde little creative binder of, magazine tear sheets or anything that I find really super fascinating, and it kind of trips my creativity, brain into thinking, oh, I like that crimped feature on this page. I'm gonna put this out, I'm gonna punch it up on my cork board so I can actually start to build a little bit of a style board until I collect all my thoughts, and then I put those into my contestant binder that I will then show the choreographer, the executive producer, the creative director, to make sure we're all on the same page. But a hair inspo binder is key. It doesn't have to be super organized. You just have to, I put everything in a little plastic sheet so I can take these out and I can add them to my folder. And this is just these are all looks that I've collected, and it's funny because some of these looks I've created on other shows that I was like, oh, I really like that. So you know what, let me save that for my little creative moment, because guess what? Sometimes when you work on a show and you've got 150 contestants, you need to have additional inspo that you can really pull from. And a lot of these are from different shows that I've done, different concepts that I really love. And I like to have these on hand because you never know when you might want to reinvent a style that you've already done. So the inspo picks are key. Now, once we determine what it is we're going to be doing, and I'm going to take, for example, on So You Think You Can Dance, one of the contestants' names Carter. He was going to do a zombie, it's that Walking Dead zombie hip hop number. And so automatically I'm thinking a couple of different things. I don't want to necessarily put him in a full wig, because they're doing a lot of prosthetics on his face and creating that horror look, that really scary, that scary vibe, that zombie. So I'm looking and thinking of different ways that I can quickly and efficiently change his really super conservative haircut into something that's scary and insane. So I will pull little extension pieces and I will use an adhesive to add those so he looks like he has a really disconnected, kind of crazy style. And I'll take a crimper and crimp those. So I've already started to create that texture, but based on the adhesive I'm using, I know that it's going to take a little bit of this solvent remover, and I can quickly take all the extensions out of his hair and get him ready for his next number. And that's part of a style roadmap that I want to talk to you about next. So let's say we have, I'm going to pull ahead so we have a better visual. Let's just take this blonde right here. So this is a practice head. So let's say this is a dance contestant and she's going to be doing 3 numbers. The first number she's gonna be doing is a period piece. So we're gonna be finding a wig and we're gonna create a finger waved wig style for this particular contestant. So that's look number 1. That's the first stop on the roadmap. Stop number 2, dance number 2 is a contemporary classic where they want movement and they want that emotion and they want the hair down but flowy. So think about that concept. And then the third dance is gonna be a ballroom number. And ballroom, the hair is really structured. So I'm constantly thinking, what can I do on the first style that's gonna make the second and the third style easier? So walking you through this, I'll take and put in a little tiny cornrow, a little scalp braid that travels down the center of the head, and it can be any traveling braid. It can be a Dutch braid, it can be a French braid, it can be a cornrow. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it's traveling and it's secured. So once that's done, that's gonna stay for the entire show. That's never gonna be coming out. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna section her hair into little pieces, and I'm gonna take, and I'm actually gonna do, and this is a really fun style that you can practice with. I do a figure 8 pin curl, and I piece that together, slide it down, and we put this pin curl and we pin curl her entire head. That's gonna get her ready for her contemporary classic because they want that flowy movement and they want that emotion and that body. So that figure 8 is gonna be where we're gonna get all that texture. Because remember, this is a live show. Sometimes, sometimes we only have 4 to 6 minutes to get them ready, to change them out of one look to the next look, and that's not just hair. That's makeup and wardrobe. So we do the figure 8 pin curls, the entire head is pin curled. Then we put, we just get a regular wig cap. We put on a wig cap and we get them prepped for that first look, which is a finger waved wig. So once she's all set, finger waved wig is on, she's ready for the first number. Every contestant knows exactly where we pin the wig on so they can actually start to take those pins off before they get backstage, because remember, time is money and we gotta plan ahead. So a little fun fact, if you ever see any contestant on a dance show that's just kind of rubbing, they're loosening up their hairpin because they probably have to take it out. I tell them to take it out. I always tell them, I go, chuck it at the audience, give them a little souvenir from the show. But when you come back, you're gonna be going into the dressing room, and I'm gonna send someone of the same gender in there to start taking off all of these pin curls, because now you're gonna have all of this beautiful undulating wave. And when you look at this contestant, we're getting her ready for her contemporary classic. So we're gonna take a section here and a section on the other side. We'll braid these out, pull these back, and because we already have that traveling braid, we now have something we can stitch this to. So when she's dancing, movement flowy, and she flips, none of that's gonna fall in front of her face. Because if you can't see the face, you don't have a show. You have to be able to see the eyes to really create the message of the dance. So they go out and they do their contemporary classic dance, right? And when she comes back, we take these side braids out and we let it just flow down and we brush through it. And then we start to put this into a French twist. And when you do a French twist, remember that traveling braid is still there, and we can sew it together so that structure of the French twist is going to stay. Now, the reason why I talk about the style roadmap, because it's really important to understand the flow of the show. Like when you're watching So You Think You Can Dance, all of those dances are specifically put in a proper order based on changes that are needed with the set. Sometimes, you might have, a whole situation that needs to be moved in that's not even on the soundstage. It might be out in the parking lot. So they're actually kind of, figuring out, okay, we're gonna do this break during this commercial, and it gives us more time to change out the set, but it also helps give us time to change hair, makeup, and wardrobe so we're ready for that next number. So understanding that roadmap is really key. So once you have that, and once we've, purchased all the products, and I come into my storage room, above my station, this is all my arts and craft area, and they're all in boxes. So if I need to jewel a wig, or if I need to build some sort of embellishment, this is the embellishment area. If I have to build a hair sheet, or I have to, let's say I have to make a serpent hairpiece, because we had to do that on So You Think You Can Dance, I'll go into my storage room and I'll pick out the color of hair that I need, and I'll bring that to set, and we'll have an actual prep day with other hair crew working on the show, and we'll build those pieces. Now what's really important is when we're building those pieces, it's also during rehearsal time. So each one of these contestants is running through their number for camera blocking, and they're just really working on those numbers. So if we have to pull that contestant to get them fitted for their proper hairpiece, or if they're gonna be in a wig, we have that time where we can get them fitted. And if they need to be braided down, or if any prep work has to be done on their hair, we try to do it the day before on that prep day. Once we get everything fitted, we understand what all the pieces are made, and they're approved by the creative director, they're approved by the choreographer. Now we figure out how we're gonna, attach them to their head. And that's why the roadmap is so important, and that's why I walked you through those 3 styles. But just imagine if there's 10 contestants and each one has 3 numbers, that's 30 hairstyles in a 2-hour show. So we have to be prepared, we have to be combat ready, we've got to walk through every one of those changeover processes. And we go through, and that leads us to the prep day, where we do it either in the workshop or we do it on the set. We do the fittings, camera blocking, double checking, and we have checklists for everything, because no 2 people have the same hair. So if we have to buy a different texture of hair, we have that available, and all of that is done on the prep day. Now, the style roadmap, key, talked you through that. Now we get to show day. Now show day is crazy, because we have 2 rehearsals. We have one rehearsal that's really, again, double checking, camera blocking, and it's just going through the motion of the show. So the camera guys are on point, the sound guys are on point, the sound people know what's happening, the control people are talking, and everybody is working cohesively. Then we go into the final dress rehearsal. Final dress rehearsal is key, because that dress rehearsal is when we're gonna act like it's the regular show. So every changeover that has to happen on the contestant will happen on the rehearsal. And the key is, I love all these inside tips, because sometimes I'll have a hair person on my team go, well, do we really need to go through the rehearsal? Well, that's why it's called a rehearsal. So we can troubleshoot if there's gonna be any issue in switching over a style. So we go through each one of those looks, and if there's an issue, for example, if maybe the solvent doesn't take out the extension, or there was one situation where they were doing makeup and it was harder to remove, but because they did it all within the dress rehearsal, they were prepared for success for the live show. Now, the actual timing is called out by the stage manager. And there's a bunch of different stage managers. We have a hair and makeup stage manager. And a lot of times they'll be like, Dean, you've got 2 minutes. Or they will yell to the entire room, 30 minutes. And I always, and I'm kind of known for this on set, whatever the stage manager yells, I yell back. If they're like, hey, Dean, you've got 30 minutes, and I go, copy 30 minutes. Copy 30 minutes. And the reason why I say that is so everybody on my team, and any other team in hearing distance, can be just aware that we have limited amount of time. And the reason I call it out is because backstage it gets crazy. And a lot of times it starts to kind of turn into, like, white noise, where they're just so focused they're so focused on what they're doing, they don't really pay attention to what's around. So I always like to yell loud and say, copy 2 minutes, 2:40, you know, depending on what we need. And if we have to have a contestant that's ready for a little promo, or they might be doing a little intro to the next number, let's see where they're going to be setting up, and let's kind of just position everything we need for that style in that area so we can still work efficiently and be on time. The one thing I never want to do is call time, because I don't have enough time to finish the style. But when you walk through that process and you practice that process, and again, a lot of times I go through each one of these styles with every single person who's working on my team, and it's imperative because you've got to just understand what that process is from what dance to the next, and have all of your items ready and set. I'm telling you, everything I do, I kind of relate back to the Army, because you always have to be combat ready. I am like troubleshoot. If you think there's going to be a problem, or if you foresee something that's going to happen that we need to course correct, have those products and those pieces available. If you need more ponytail ties, if you need more bobby pins, maybe you need to have needle and thread ready because we've got to whip stitch something on, or we've got to do a swing stitch on a braid so the braid moves but it doesn't flip completely around. There's so many little areas that we can manage to make the show run quickly and efficiently, but also create some really beautiful looks that are not going to be like every other show. We can stand out, and we can actually up-level our styling ability on this particular show. One of the things I love about the dress rehearsal is I'm taking I think I make my team a little nervous, because I have my pad, I have my binder, and it's literally a dance checklist. I was like, okay, we need to restructure this contestant. And as you see the looks start to come together, the entire team, it's a group effort, because it's hair, makeup, wardrobe, it's sets, it's lighting, it's the entire production crew. But the dress rehearsal is key, because when the actual show happens and we're watching the monitors backstage, there is a collective group of positive energy, because we've just created something really magical. And our process is all about the contestant. Because remember, as hair people, we learned this early on. When you look good, you feel better. When you feel better, you perform, and your confidence is boosted. We want to encourage every one of the contestants, be it singing or dancing or whatever the act may be, if they look good and they feel great, they're going to perform really awesome, and they're going to feel really good about themselves. And as a team, we love watching all of our work come out, and we're like, yeah, we did that. And it's a great team building space, because we're troubleshooting and we're always working together. And before the end of that show, I have already received my creative briefs for the next week's show. So we pack all this up, we label any piece. So for example, I'm gonna just use something random. I'm gonna use this. I'll use this up here. Let's say we used this little hair form, and oh, FYI, I'm gonna be doing a little cage course coming up, so you can learn how to build all of these fun things. But let's say we use this, I don't know, maybe it was a hocus pocus, base for something. We'll take this and we mark it. We have a little tag, and we safety pin it to, and we'll identify this is episode 24, season 17, so you think you can dance, and we will archive it just in case they ever want to replicate this look for the finale. So it's all about bookkeeping, it's about organizing all of your pieces in your work, and really collectively understanding how to store it properly and how to just keep track of every single thing you do. Because you're going to be moving on to the next show. And whatever creative options are needed for that next show, you start that whole process all over again, except for one thing. The very first step, the contestant profile. You already have all the pictures, you already know what texture of hair they have, what color and length. so you're one step ahead for the next episode. Archive all of that. And sadly, as a contestant gets booted, their picture's taken down and put into the cabinet until the finale when they all come back. And then we, again, put them above our stations so they know exactly where to go, and we're ready and prepped for success for the next one. Happy show day! So that's a wrap on my creative process, the things that I do to create all the looks that you see on different competition reality shows. If you've got comments on anything or questions, please drop them down below and I will jump on. And again, if you don't ask the questions, you'll never get an answer. So feel free, ask me anything. Have the best time. And I gotta go curl some hair.